Up here at the north, a very creative Protoss, a member of the team. He is.
I am Yonghwa.
Very passive person. The bottom position here, member of the team FOU.
SC FOU.
Really strong Terran player, specializes in TVT, but his TVZ is also really strong. And I gotta say, his TVP must be too if they pull him out in the ace match. You know, the last chance for the team to come back here.
But he doesn't have his sunglasses on, so.
That's very true. That means everything to this.
It's all in 2D now.
Yeah. So, earlier, I was talking about this map when Moonin was playing in this matchup. Yep. A lot of the time you see a build like what Moonin did. A one-base, sort of tech-oriented build. Not necessarily an all-in, but cloaked Banshees, try to harass. It's a map that's really good for harassment because there's an area where Banshees can fly between the main and the natural without really being seen. And also tank timing attacks with Banshees or tank marine timing attacks are quite good, especially with the Raven in there because you can kind of fall back to that ramp outside of your opponent's natural, and it's really difficult for the Zealots to run all the way out there, so it's very difficult to punish that type of build without Colossi. So it's really difficult for the Protoss to fast expand on a map like this because those type of builds are so popular here. Now, this probe is going to come in here. He's going to check for the gas, but he's like, this is Crossfire. If you didn't get gas, you'd be like the player that Alicia beat when he didn't go gas. I don't remember the name of the player, actually trying to remember that. Maybe someone will tell me on Twitter.
Well, there is the supply depot out here. He is going to be able to scout any sort of drops that are going on later in the game. And both players just scouting. Nothing too out of the ordinary going on.
What are you talking about towards drops in PvT? People don't use warp prisms. Are you joking?
They might now. You never know. I want to see more warp prisms.
Everyone wants to see more warp prisms. We'll talk about that a little bit right now. I think that warp prisms are pretty good. Hold that thought. That's a reactor on that barracks. That's actually pretty unusual to see.
Yeah, to see it this early before the factory goes down, that is.
Yeah, in fact, he's making a second barracks as well, so he's actually going to do some sort of 2 barracks opener similar to what QXC did.
And with that, you do need to be either very aggressive or very defensive, sticking in the bunkers, because if you only have Marines without stim against Stalkers, you are just going to lose them to good micro.
You have to be careful, too, when you do this type of build that if your opponent doesn't chrono boost out some units and attack you, because if you make that reactor, that's a lot of time where you're not making units.
Yep.
But anyway, I think the reason why people don't use warp prisms is not because they're expensive, but it's because it's very difficult to use Protoss units cost-effectively inside of someone's base because the AI kind of bugs out sometimes, and also because the most important reason to me, the reason why people don't use warp prisms is because you're not making an observer or a Colossus while you're making that warp prism.
That's very true. And that's what we were talking about before, of even just having to be forced to make more observers. You can't make the other units that you really want.
So it's a huge investment. So he's actually doing the T-Rex opener that we saw from QXC, the exact same build. Making the reactor first, and making the Tech Lab afterwards. That SCV is not scouting today.
He does use the force field to prevent the scouting. I don't know if that's really the best decision because that force field energy is quite important, and he's not really doing anything out of the ordinary. Although, when you go out of your way to force your opponent not to see something and your opponent recognizes that, they actually usually feel like, oh, well, that means you're trying to hide something from me.
Yeah, most likely he probably thinks it's a hidden Stargate.
Yep.
It could be a one-gate robo, which it is. Similar build to what we saw last game. So that's pretty normal to see, I have to say. Well, look at this little battle over here. We've got Probe and
SCV versus Probe. Probe can't get out. Can't recharge its shields.
Oh, the Stalker is not playing fair. That's dirty. Stalker comes over here. He's going to take that SCV out. The SCV might have won that fight.
He's going to cry all the way home until he gets caught. But he does have some buddies backing him up.
Yeah, he actually...
Not quite quickly enough.
Yeah, that SCV's buddies are going to get revenge. They're like, man, they took out Tony. We're like... Where did he come and go? I named him after he died this time.
Yeah.
We're going to go get some revenge. Even bring another SCV. That's Tony's brother. His name's Jerry.
Oh, he's dead.
We'll find out. The observer
make sure you follow him.
I will follow him. I actually have him selected. I won't select anyone else. Thanks, Torch. Now I'm not going to forget. And now look at this. This is how you do it. You cancel the Nexus.
Yep.
See this? You cancel that Nexus. That's what you do. If you see this type of push coming, there's no way you can hold it. You just have to cancel the Nexus. That's what that observer is for. There's actually a guide on YouTube. Artosis told me about it. He made a guide about going one-gate robo. You should look it up. I think it's called Expert PVT Tutorial or something like that. But it basically teaches you how to do a one-gate robo style very effectively, very safely.
Oh, and we do have a bunker going down here, so he is just going for the contain. He's not going to try to push up the ramp because he does know that there are enough sentries there to force him to stay out of the base almost indefinitely. But at the same time of setting down the bunker, he is also setting down a command center for himself. Oh, he does scout the pylon, however, he's not taking out quite yet. There we go.
There it goes. And Jerry did finish that bunker. And now he's actually... Oh!
Almost dead.
There's that little SCV there, man. He's still alive.
Good job building that bunker. Now go off to your death.
All right, now this is going to be relatively difficult for him to break. But he does have a few immortals at the front. And here he goes. Going to want to use that Guardian Shield. There he does. And actually not targeting down the bunker, using the immortals better for those Marauders on the outside. I like that choice. He had enough Zealots to do the DPS on the bunker. That targeting down with the immortals would have been a waste of DPS.
Those were some beautiful force fields. Almost every single unit was caught inside them, so those Zealots did a lot of damage. And right as soon as the army is cleared up, he does drop that Nexus down. His timing's not too far behind the Terran player.
Yep. Well, with Jerry's death comes a counterattack from the Protoss. And in fact, this is going to force SC to lift his command center up and run away. So first a cancel, then a lift of the CC. It's much easier for the Terran, though, because he can just fly away. He should probably cancel that bunker as well. It's a little bit strange that he's keeping that alive.
Well, you can just salvage it, too.
That's true. And it looks like he is going to lose it, or cancel it, rather. Maybe he wanted to buy himself some time with it. That's most likely why. Yep. Why am I so silly sometimes? I'm like, why is he doing that? There's no reason.
There's always a reason. All
right, so now the Nexus of Younghwa is going to be finishing up here pretty soon. But he still can't mine off of it just yet.
And he also has the robotics facility almost done. He's going to be able to get these units out to be able to stay quite safe like he was last game. Yeah. He's probably going to play very passive like he did. He knows he has a slight lead and wants to make sure he keeps that.
Yep, right now, as far as worker count goes, it's 33 probes to 32 SCVs. So both players keeping pretty even in that regard. And in fact, the supply is even as well, 67 to 68. The crucial thing here is that basically SC just now got his starport up. He made a medevac, so his starport tech a little bit later than he could have maybe capitalized on. But when you get behind like this, you lose all of your units. You just kind of have to delay those medevacs. But he needs to put on some sort of pressure. He needs to secure that expansion, as he is going to move it down to his natural now.
And he does have those few units out there as a little vanguard to know exactly when the Protoss army is coming out. They will be sacrificed if he does get attacked, but it's the early warning that you really need to be able to respond properly.
Exactly.
And he's sending an empty medevac. I think he saw that there was an observer floating around. Doesn't want to waste a scan on it quite yet.
That was a rescue mission, actually. With
okay.
That medevac went and picked up a stray Marauder and Marine, Robin Clark. He saved him.
Very rarely do you see units going specific missions just to save a couple units.
See, I would have stopped with the name thing, but it was one Marine and one Marauder, just like Robin Clark.
All right. They're the ones in the back right there.
Yeah. All right, so this probe actually saw this entire army coming. That's why it's so important to hold the Zalnaga watchtowers. And now he's got such a good position here with this Colossus, as well as the sentries, and he is most likely going to be able to trap these units if they get too close.
He almost has range, not quite yet, so he doesn't want to fight at this point, but if the Terran player tries to sit at the watchtower, he is going to be able to shell it from afar, or zap it from afar.
Yep. Lance it. To use the technical term.
Thermally.
Alright, so...
How hot do you think those thermal lances are?
Hotter than the sun, man.
Ooh. It's like in Thor.
I actually didn't see that movie either.
You gotta get out more. Only playing StarCraft all day.
Movies are expensive, man. Alright, so 2 dropships coming out here for SC. And he's going to drop those most likely in the main base. Try to maybe snipe a robo. Force his opponent's unit to go back. And may take a 3rd base during all of this. Probe is at the gold, maybe thinking about taking the gold base.
There's a probe at the gold, and he also has a pylon at the 3rd of the Terran player. The drop is going to come down and be able to take down this pylon, but Younghwa, being the passive player that he is, has his army right in place to be able to limit the amount of damage that this is going to do. It does supply block him temporarily, but all he's going to do is throw on a few more gateways, ramp up for another drop that's coming in here.
Yeah, he's taking out 2 pylons with these drops. Did lose a Marauder and a Marine. And he's going to drop again in the main. Actually, all of his units in the main getting cleaned up. Does save 2 Marauders.
The second drop is just trying to poke in and out just to make sure that Yonghwa stays feeling like there's a bit of pressure. There's not a whole lot going on from SE either, though.
Yeah, it's a little bit unusual that he hasn't done anything while he was doing this pressure. He's just been doing some drops, but not taking a third base. Now it looks like he wants to get aggressive, bringing his Vikings. Now he's got 4 Vikings out. 2 more joining them pretty soon, and he's getting that Ghost Academy. I like his Ghost Academy timing. That's pretty good timing on that. It's about the right time where you can start making use of those EMPs.
Yep. You need a pretty large Protoss ball to be able to use the Ghost effectively.
Yep. And it looks like that medevac stays alive, but the units inside getting a little bit cooked by that Thermal Lance. And right now, the position that Yonghwa is in is a bad one. He's got an army that his opponent's completely prepared for. He's teching up faster than Yonghwa is. Yonghwa can't easily take a third base at this point. Whereas SC, if he wanted to, it'd be very, very easy for him to take a third base. Right now, SC is ahead in supply right now, 134 to 116. Both players actually supply capped at this very moment. Both of them making like, one was making 3 pounds, one was making 3. Deepos, we caught you guys on TV. Isn't that embarrassing?
And SE here with a very high Viking count right now, so he is prepared for all of these Colossi. Yonghwa really needs to get those units that he had last game of the Archons and Templar in order to be able to fight the Terran army at all. So as you were saying, he is kind of locked to the 2 base while the Terran's not. However, the Terran is staying on 2 bases anyway for whatever reason. He's got a command center going up, but it's going up in his base, so it's going to take forever to actually get to a third.
That's true. He is going to finally clear up this pylon, so he can take that third base down at the bottom right. Yonghwa sees this army moving out, and I think that's going to trigger him to realize, okay, you're probably taking your third now, maybe he can hit a nice timing here, but he's so far behind in supply, and his unit composition is just so, I don't want to say it's bad, but it's just, it's known, and SC is completely ready for it.
Yep, and the Ghosts are out now.
But
he does have 1-1.
Better upgrades.
Well, it's 0-2 or 2-0 compared to 1-1.
Okay. Oh, I didn't realize that he had armor.
Yeah. But as you were saying last game, the splash damage from the Colossi, the upgrades for them are a lot more important than they are for something like Marauders.
So here we go. Looks like we might have a little engagement here in the middle of the map. Those Vikings trying to catch the Colossi walking up that cliff so they can avoid the Stalker shots on the other side.
Hopefully they don't get bugged out like last game, or yesterday.
And it's, you know, both players just kind of moving their armies around the middle of the map, neither of them wanting to really engage, and it looks like SC is actually going to take the gold base rather than taking the bottom right based on how his command center is flying.
And I actually kind of like this decision because he did take out the pylon that was at the natural third, so it's kind of the expected move is to move to that base, and you're going to need to defend either one anyway. So moving to the gold is going to be scouted a little bit slower than the third would be on an average game.
That's true, and not only that, but he's so ahead, and I think he realizes he's scouted several times. He knows his opponent's composition. He knows that he can safely do that. There's not really anything Yonghwa can do to stop him from taking that gold base, and indeed there he is, dropping those mules there.
Yeah, the architecture of this map, the nature of the matchup forces the Colossi to be with the army of the Protoss player, otherwise he's not going to be able to win any fight. And the architecture of the map forces those Colossi to make a roundabout moves to get anywhere, so the Vikings can be shelling them the entire time that they're moving.
Exactly. This is one of the reasons why I think this map is, I don't want to say Terran favored, but it's very difficult for the Protoss to kind of maneuver his army around in those little narrow walkways with the Vikings around. It's very difficult to use Colossi, so I think maybe using a more, I was just going to say that maybe using a more Zealot heavy army would be good, but even so, using that, melee unit's pretty bad on this map as well, and it becomes difficult to kind of brainstorm as to what Yonghwa could have done better here. You know, he's not being aggressive enough on one hand, but on the other hand, should he be being aggressive right now? It's almost impossible for him to move around. He'd have to skirt around the entire map. He
is taking a deficit in income right now because he's not getting a third base while the Terran player is, but he's also allowing himself to build up that army that he needs, get the energy on his Templar, get Storm upgraded, and then once he gets that, he can actually fight this battle, and he can actually win this game pretty easily.
Oh, this is going to be bad if he tries to engage here where his opponent has a concave and he doesn't.
But he also does have Storm finished right now. Are any of his Templar having energy?
Don't do it, Yonghwa. You don't want to engage. It's like the worst possible place to engage.
Here comes the Templar. They can storm all of those Vikings, but instead he's going to blink forward and be able to take out a few of them. No significant losses quite yet. Colossi moving in. They're going to be able to get a really nice line on all these bio units. Beautiful, beautiful EMP hitting every single Templar. There's going to be no storms coming out quite yet. These Vikings are melting these Colossi. This blink from the Stalkers is actually doing still a pretty nice job. Charge from the Zealots is closing in on the Marauders, but he did lose a lot where he didn't necessarily need to. Wow, that was a close battle. The Terran player backing off to the Planetary Fortress, able to defend, but it does cue in Yonghwa that there is the third base up at the gold.
He does have that armor upgrade now, but similarly, SC has the +2 weapons upgrade, so it's 2-1 to 2-1 right now. Both players having the exact same upgrades. It's almost impossible to engage at that planetary, but he is going to try to maybe use some storms to neutralize the repair of the SCVs. It's going to be very difficult to engage here, though. I'm not sure if I agree with him trying to. There are no ghosts in this army, so he can't EMP neither the sentries nor the High Templar.
And SC does not know exactly where the army is of Yonghwa, so he does need to keep his reinforcements at his natural expansion in case Yonghwa were to go for that base as his attack. But he's also keeping his main Marauder force at the gold base to defend in case anything comes in that direction.
It's very true. Now he does get his army scanned, so he's going to try to reposition his Marauders here, but if he actually gets cut, that'll be bad. It's not a good idea to try to engage at the bottom of that ramp, though. Again, engaging a Terran Concave is a terrible idea. He's going to go for it anyways, though. Guardian shields up, trying to blink his Stalkers out of the way.
Nice storms going down.
And a lot of the army of SC getting hit by these storms. I think he might just have too much. And it looks like he does, cleaning up this army very quickly. The Stalkers have good upgrades, but they just can't do enough DPS. They have to blink away. And this is looking really bad.
All these bio units are still alive, but they do have low health. It is going to be a very interesting fight. When he does force it right now, they're going to be fighting. The landed Vikings actually doing a pretty good job of this fight. Mules coming down here for the Terran player to try to absorb some of the hits.
And it's looking like most of that army has been cleaned up. Third base is up at the gold for SC, whereas I Am Yonghwa does not even have a third base whatsoever. And he's losing Stalkers to a planetary, or losing hit points on those Stalkers at the very least. Things are looking really bad for Yonghwa. In fact, I think there's almost no way he can recover from this.
There's always a way.
There's always a way. Well, that's what you say, Torch, but
he is long distance mining at the third base in the upper left.
Yeah, he's been doing that for a long time, actually. Just didn't mention it earlier. He's been mining from there for a while. Just he has too many probes to mine from both of his bases. Losing Stalkers here at the natural. I almost felt like for a while he was just trying to blink those Stalkers around to just scout the map out so he doesn't have to watch the replay. A lot of pros do that when they lose games. You'll see them like scan a bunch of bases and be like, oh, so you actually had 5 bases, and then just leave the game after that. But I thought that maybe what he was doing actually looks like he wants to try to fight it, though. Don't think it's going to work out.
These Templar are moving in without enough energy for Storm. I don't know what they're... Oh, they do have 2 Storms. The other 2 are just kind of running in for fun.
GG!
And there's the GG.
Just want to get off some showy Storms, but guess what, Torch?
It's 3-2.
Is it 3-2?
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know. You tell me. I'm bad with numbers.
What's here? I'm just messing with you.
And there is SC with his win and his reddish hair. The redder your hair, the better you are at StarCraft. The virus changed his hair to red and then he became Code S.
Oh, is Fruit the other changed his hair to red? Did he? I feel like his hair was red for a while. Am I crazy? I think that happened.
I don't know, but it might be a counterexample to my statement, so let's not talk about it.
Oh, that's actually pretty. I like that. That's clever.
So I am trying to talk between themselves of who they think is going to be coming up next. Nesty is probably maybe thinking about him or MVP.
That would be an epic rematch.
That would be.
But I don't know. MVP would be good, but SC's pretty strong in TBT, and MVP hasn't been doing as well as he has in the past recently.
That's true.
He actually lost to Gonzi in the Super Tournament. Gonzi, a player that's pretty good, but isn't considered to be a top Terran player, whereas SC definitely is.
And they might also put out Lucira, but saw a little yawn from him, so either he knows he's going out, or he's not going out, one of the two.
Yeah, we'll find out here pretty soon. I don't know. I think Nesty would be the best choice, even though he struggled with SC a little bit. SC's TVZ is really good. SC's, he's got to be a little tired out.
Yeah, that was a long game, and the other thing is that by putting a player out as the loser, you do have the advantage of choosing the map as well. So you can choose a map that your player is very strong on against SC.
Yeah, like picking a map like Terminus Re. I mean, Tall Dream Altar, but Terminus Re would be a great map if it wasn't already used.
Yeah.
But picking a map like Tall Dream Altar would be pretty smart, putting SC on it. SC's really, really good at his bunkering and his 2 racks play. That's what he's really known for in TVZ. And I think, though, that if you put an SC against him on a big map, an SC could take him out pretty easily.
Well, either way, I know we're going to get a good game coming out here in a second here. So we got the map for you guys.
Tall Dream Altar!
Good guess. Does that mean it's going to be a Zerg player coming out here?
I don't know. We'll find out in just a minute. I think it is going to be Nesty. He's just so smart. He understands all the matchups really well. He's always played consistently well against Terrans. And there's a shot of him now.
He's looking smug.
Uh-oh. He was giving this look like, oh, maybe
that's a rich nerd right there.
He is actually really rich. Rich in knowledge and perhaps a little bit of financial minerals. I like that. All right, who's it going to be?
I'm excited. It's the first GSTL. Or the first full league GSTL, not just GSTL tournament. Always suspenseful of who's going to be. Oh, Lucira is going to
It is really going to be Lucira. I didn't say anything.
Oh, thumbs down.
How can he thumbs down?
But he's confused of which booth he's going in. So.
The crowd cheers for him and stuff, and he like looks at the crowd and gives him a thumbs down. What's up with that? Maybe he was trying. Maybe he was probably thumbs downing Foyu, but it looked like he was thumbs downing the crowd.
SC looks a little nervous of going back in.
Well, Lucira's pretty good.
Lucira's very good.
He has choked in important matchups before, but I don't think today will be his day to choke.
Nope. He's a Code S player. He also just recently did extremely well in the MLG. If you haven't checked those games out, definitely check them out. A lot of Korean players doing very, very well. No Korean players getting knocked out by any non-Korean player.
You know what I was thinking actually as well just now is if Lucira loses, they still have Nesty. So
they still have Nesty, they still have MVP, they still have a bunch of other good players. But SC is also very good.
Yeah, what I think is going to happen actually is if Lucira plays a long game against SC and SC's late game decision making seems like it's really good, they're probably not going to send another Zerg out. They'll just probably send MVP out and try to play another long game, and SC will be so exhausted at that point. They're playing a different matchup, and MVP will be so fresh. I think that might be what we'll see.
Yeah, they do have a little room here to try like some sort of a cheese build as well. Maybe do some sort of aggressive, but you don't really want to do that on Tall Dream Altar unless it's some sort of drop.
It's true. I mean, sometimes I've seen SC win with 2-Rex play on this map. He's just so good at it. But I think that his style doesn't really suit this map. He can play late game TVZ. He's pretty good at it. But his style kind of hinges on him doing damage earlier, and he almost always 2-Rexes in TVZ. So
it'll be interesting to see if we have that happen right now.
Yeah, he might go for Reactor Hellions. They're getting a little bit more popular again.
Yep.
I've seen some Banshees actually recently as well being used in this matchup. Definitely a possibility. SC looks like he's trying to get his hands warmed up. It's funny, a lot of players say they get cold hands after they play a lot. That's actually the entire opposite for me, but interesting that, do you know what I'm talking about? Did you ever get cold hands?
What will happen is when you're nervous and you're playing really, really quickly, your hands will sweat a little bit. And then when you stop playing, they clam up and they get a little cold. And then you don't move as quickly as you really need to in a game like StarCraft. Gotcha. It's the fastest game out there, I think.
Maybe I just don't get nervous enough, but my hands never get cold when I play StarCraft.
Well, when you go in the booth for FXO as their ace, I think you're going to get nervous.
I'll probably get a little nervous, man.
Just a little bit.
Definitely a possibility. So we still don't have our IM player in the game yet. Lucira hasn't joined just yet. He's probably testing out his settings.
Yep. Got to make sure they're exactly right. They do get to go in the booth a little bit beforehand to make sure their settings are right, but you don't necessarily have as much time because maybe you'll expect your player to win and don't know who's going to go out.
Yeah, so you got to get in there, make sure all your settings are right. I actually went to the PC Bong for the first time pretty recently. And
good experience, right?
I actually really enjoyed it, but it was very difficult for me to play because I couldn't get my settings right. And I wasn't there for very long. I was only there for about 30 minutes. And,
okay.
And in that time period, I didn't get my settings right, and I actually lost someone who was really bad on the ladder. And then like his Zerglings ran into my base, and I couldn't get my force field off. And then he actually just like typed into chat like all this laughter and stuff and all these mean things to me in Korean. I was just like, no, I'm better than you. You just got lucky. Your Zerglings came in my base.
He was probably being very supportive, like, oh, nice try, good job.
No, he wasn't. I know what he was saying, man.
But the thing with PC Bongs is you really got to go for a little while because you can get free coffee. Sometimes they give you free drinks when you go. They're really, really friendly, and they really like their PC Bong culture here.
And unlike in the U.S., there aren't that many internet cafes in the U.S., but a lot of them don't allow food and stuff like that, whereas in Korea, you can bring your own food. You can order food into the PC
Yep.
Bong. That's what FXO did the other day.
They order
Chinese
pizza for you or Chinese food, yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually really nice. A lot of players practice. Some of the best players in the world for StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, trained and became as good as they are just from walking to the PC Bong and playing.
Well, and a lot of people will go, like, they have really nice computers at home, fueled by Intel and whatever else, but they still like to go to PC Bongs because it's a really nice culture to go with your friends and just hang out, meet other people there.
Yeah, you can meet lots of cool nerds there.
Yep, or even not nerds. Some girls I've seen at PC Bongs.
I haven't seen any. I've only been once, but... And a lot of them have really, really nice monitors as well. And the hardware is just always good at a PC Bong. You're not going to have bad hardware at a PC Bong or everyone's going to be like, I didn't like that PC Bong, the hardware was bad. So
there's also a PC Bong in pretty much every corner.
Yeah, in Korea, there are actually 3 PC Bongs in every corner.
First floor, second floor, basement 2.
There's a Noribong as well. Noribong in every corner too.
Noribong is a karaoke room. Quite fun.
And sometimes there's a Noribong and a PC Bong like on top of each other.
Ooh.
So that actually is when I went to the PC Bong, there was a Noribong and they had like walk through it and then go to the PC Bong.
Sing on your way there. Yeah. So that was the Korean
commentators there for a second. They're actually all really great guys.
Yeah.
I've met them, talked to them. One of them is actually the Street Fighter voice guy.
They also have pretty decent English, so if you are here in Korea, say hi to them.
Yeah, they'd actually really appreciate that.
Yep. Tell them what you think about GSL, what improvements you'd like.
You can also watch the Korean stream for free as well.
If you're in Korea.
No, you can actually watch it now online as well in the US.
Really?
Yeah. So
That's pretty awesome.
You can't watch VODs, I don't think, but I know that you can watch the live Korean stream. There's an option for it on the GOMTV live menu.
Check that out if you guys haven't checked that out. And if you're curious about any of the other information going on with GSL, go to GOMTV.net. Or GOMTV.com has the Korean, which is even more information about the players, statistics, things like that. Also, if you have a smartphone, you can check us out at m.gomtv.net, where it's laid out perfectly so that you can see the schedule, you can see the VODs very easily.
Yeah. And if you have a Twitter, you can follow GOMTV at GOMTV.
Yep.
You can follow Torch at Torch Gaming.
You can harass John at Junka, Junkka 83, or follow you at
FXO Wolf.
And in addition to following us, you can also interact with us in very good ways, like letting us know how we can improve, what we can do. If you have any questions about what's going on in the scene, or you want to get in contact with any of the Korean players or coaches, let us know. Well, we can't guarantee that we can do it, but we can do a very good effort to try to make sure that happens.
You can post on the GOM forums. You can, if you message me on Twitter, I read almost everything. I can't reply to everyone. Obviously, I get a lot of messages, but it's good to hear feedback on Twitter.
Yep.
It's really important to give us the feedback. And we really appreciate it. And
a lot of the Korean players are starting to get Twitter, too, so you can interact with them.
Almost a lot of the teams getting them as well, I've noticed. Especially foreign teams. A lot of foreign teams do have it. FXOpen Esports has one as well. And I know that if you look at Tasteless's old tweets, you can find specific pro gamers players because he lists them all. He's Call Me Tasteless. Of course, Artosis is just Artosis. All right, the countdown is starting. Can SC win this game as well? Or will Lucira knock him out and end this GSTL? Let's find out here in just a minute.